Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about the series finale of Smash. You guys, this is a show that I loved. I don't care that people didn't like it, and I know people didn't like it, and they made fun of it, and they did like hate watching with Smash. I don't care because I really liked this show. Now don't get me wrong, I mean I get that there were definitely some things that were wrong with Smash, but I don't know, to me it just felt like the good far outweighed the bad. When Smash was good, it just was good, you know? And so I'm sad to see it go. I'm sad that I will not know what happens to Ivy and Carrot and the whole bunch. So let's talk about a few things. In the series finale, it was interesting. I read an article by the showrunner who took over this season because obviously that was the big brouhaha was. After season 1, you know, NBC had some issues, and so they replaced the woman who actually created the show with a different showrunner. And he made lots of changes, some that were good and some that just were not so great. But I read this article where he said that, you know, they kind of knew that this was going to possibly be the series finale, and so they wrote it like that. So I was very excited about that, because we've all seen shows that we love end when they didn't have a chance to know, you know, that this was going to be the end, and so they end with like a cliffhanger or something random, and you're just like, really? I felt like Smash did a great job of ending. They kind of tied up all their storylines, and they left themselves, you know, kind of open room, just in case they got renewed, which of course they didn't. So one thing I loved and hated about season 2 was Jeremy Jordan. You guys, he is amazing, amazing, amazing. I remember the very first episode he was in this season, and he sang this song called Broadway Here I Come, and I was just sitting in front of my TV just like, wow, like, I mean, he's so talented, such a great singer, and I loved that aspect of seeing him in this season. Now let's talk about why I hated Jeremy, because his character was the worst. I mean, probably one of the worst written characters I've ever seen in a television show ever. Jimmy, you were the worst, the absolute worst. And that's saying a lot, you guys, because you know that I watch a lot of TV. So if I say Jimmy was the worst, I mean, it's just, I just can't even understand what they were possibly thinking. You know, they had this whole arc they were doing, but he was just an ass. And not in a way that was kind of like, oh, he's a bad guy, because he's kind of a good guy that you're kind of rooting for, but then he does these things that just didn't make sense, and he was just awful. And then in the end, when they kind of finally explain what all of this, you know, brouhaha has been about, it was just kind of like, eh. Like, really? Like, that was it? That was what the problem was with Jimmy? Like, it just was just stupid. So I loved him because the actor who played him is fantastic, but Jimmy, like, in the show was the worst. The absolute worst. I think another fault in Smash is there were a lot of characters that were really kind of underdeveloped, you know, almost a little kind of cardboardy and stereotypical, you know, so you had, you know, Derek, you know, the director, and, you know, he's a womanizer and all this stuff, but we never really got beneath that. There was a glimpse of it in the finale, you know, there was a great scene between he and Ivy at the end where he basically does finally admit that he's lonely. And that was obviously a big step for him. But before that, he was just kind of like, I don't know, like a caricature of kind of like a lusty director who preys on young ingenues. I mean, it was just kind of, I don't know, I like to see depth in my characters, especially, I mean, we're in season 2. I mean, I should know more about him, and you really didn't. And there were definitely some other storylines that didn't make sense, or that distracted kind of from the main story they were trying to tell. And I think they tried to do the fix in season 1, and like I said, some of the stuff worked, but I don't know, I think I enjoyed Smash more in season 1, although I loved some of the music this season. And that is the shining star right there, the music. Whatever faults Smash has, I mean, it wins hands down in the music department. Just some fantastic songs. The new musical this season, Hit List, I just love it, love it, love it. I mean, like, so many of those songs I have downloaded onto my computer. I have the soundtrack from season 1, which I loved. I loved the songs from Bombshell. And yeah, music was the shining star of this show. I mean, if Smash did anything right, it was that. And they did it really, really well, you guys. And I think across the board, people will say that. You know, even if they slag on the show, nobody can talk bad about the music because it was phenomenal. So for that reason alone, I mean, Smash is worth a watch. If you haven't ever watched it, you guys, go watch season 1. I remember when I saw the first episode, I mean, it just was fantastic. It started with a bang, and then I think just really kind of got in its own way to some degree. which is kind of sad because it had such great potential. But there are 2 seasons of it, and I really, really enjoyed it and stuck with it. Even though I knew it was going to get canceled, it was like I knew I was going to watch to the end. I love the fact that at the end, the last thing we saw was this big kind of Broadway number at the Tony Awards called The Big Finish. And it was really interesting because some of the lyrics in the song too were something like, you know, like basically if you give them a big finish, they'll forget everything else that came before that. They'll forget all the mistakes that came before that. And I loved that because it was almost like they were kind of making fun of themselves a little bit. You could tell that the people who worked on the show loved it, and I've read that they loved it. I loved Catherine McPhee in the show, you guys. She was just fantastic. Megan Hilty as well. I mean, they were both great as Karen and Ivy. And yeah, just a great show, great music, great performances. If you haven't seen it, it doesn't matter that it was canceled, you guys. I would totally check it out, especially season 1. I really liked season 1. Okay, guys, that's it for me today. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.